Hello and welcome to yet another video. This is the 12th episode of the story in which Naruto almost dies at Final Valley, but fate still wants him to live. The Shinigami takes an interest in Naruto and makes him its first summoner. Watch Naruto as he shows the world what it's like to summon the Death God. This story comes from Kyubi-Goku. Make certain to support him, her. Please like and subscribe to show your support. Let's get the show started. Yugao grimaced and quickly pulled Naruto to the side. She asked for a couple of minutes with her teammate, which the recent Kumo Shinobi combatants had agreed to. Something of Karui hoping for her to tell the blonde just what kind of fool he was being in challenging them 3-on-1. Karui strapped her sword to her waist and she noticed Omoi tighten his shoes while Samui took a look over a scroll before placing it in her pouch. Everyone seemed ready for anything, and this was no more evident than in Karui as she punched her palm. "Alright, when they get back let's kick that bastard's ass to the ground. Underestimating us will cost him," Karui said, getting a hesitant nod from Omoi and Samui. "What's wrong?" She then proceeded to ask her two weary teammates. "Ya fool, don't ya know anything? Blondie is no joke. He's a lot better than your average folk. Hachibi has told me that he is very dangerous. He's not someone to take lightly. Fools, make sure to watch each other's back. Or he will take you apart," Kurabi told them, getting a sudden look of withdrawal from Omoi and a rather interested Samui. Karui just growled and looked back to see Yugao and Naruto talking together. "I don't see the point. What's so special about his blonde ass anyway?" Karui mumbled to herself while she and the others folded their arms to wait for their practice partner. Yugao set Naruto down and placed her hands on his shoulder. "Naruto, are you sure you know what you're doing? You know that this isn't necessary. We're here as diplomats. Kumo and Konoha are at odds with each other as it is. I don't want you doing something that you will regret," Yugao calmly warned. Naruto was all ears for her words of concern and was very much happy to hear them. He glanced back at Karui and the others before a light smile graced his face. "Don't worry, Yugao-chan. It's not like we're all going to kill each other. Nothing like that at all. Besides, Ka-chan taught me that some shinobi are able to understand each other through their fighting. If that helps, then I'm all for it. Are you afraid that I'll lose? Don't worry about me. I've got it made," Naruto answered as he walked past Yugao while the female sighed and gently placed her hand to her face, then shook it left and right. "It's not you I'm worried about. It's them. You never know how to hold back. If we get in trouble for this, then I can only imagine just how much it will be," Yugao silently said to herself before she and B quickly backed away from the field. B landed near his house and heard a voice. "Are you sure about this? The power I feel from that boy. It's more powerful than even Yuki. He doesn't have more than you, but the sum that he does has is more potent than even you be. Your students are bound to have trouble on their hands," Hachibi stated, and B just kept a small smile. Whether he heard his partner or not was still a question. Naruto took to the center and he noticed Karui grin. "You didn't run away. You've got guts at least. And we'll see them soon enough," Karui spoke, getting a glare from Samui and a disgusted face from Omoi. Naruto stared at her impassively and his silence unnerved her slightly. "Are you going to talk or are you going to fight?" Naruto asked, and Karui just allowed for a smile to come across her face, though it twitched for quite a while. "Oh, I'll fight. Just like now," Karui shouted as she charged at Naruto suddenly. Samui and Omoi grumbled as Karui instantly appeared in front of Naruto. Yugao and B paid attention to the fight, and in a blink they saw Naruto quickly block Karui's sword strike to his face. The redhead quickly spun on her heel and sent her opposite foot at his face. Naruto ducked underneath it before he was forced to dodge another sword strike courtesy of Omoi. Karui threw a kunai at the blonde Jinchuriki, causing Naruto to roll across the hard ground. The kunai embedded themselves into said ground while Naruto got to his feet. Karui and Omoi were in awe as Naruto quickly split off in two different directions. He can do Sealess Kage Bunshin? Samui wondered before she noticed the clone charging at her while the real Naruto kept Karui and Omoi occupied. Samui took a defensive stance. The toe clashed swords against each other and Samui noticed the clone's grin and she had a sense of foreboding. Her sense was definitely founded as she watched the clone backflip and right behind him was a second clone that sent its sword to her face. Samui dodged, but not without a small cut coming to her face. She swung her legs and managed to sweep the clone's feet before noticing the second coming back at her. Samui was forced against the two and their strength before she was lucky enough to plant a kick to one's face, but to her shock it didn't dispel, instead crashing across the ground. His control is so perfect that he had keep these clones going for more than one hit? B-sensei was right. He's definitely not to be trifled with, Samui thought and she saw the clone smiled. Now do you see how I fight? It asked and Samui widened her eyes as she turned back to seeing Karui and Omoi on the far side of the field still fighting with the real Naruto. The blonde kicked Karui into the air getting a groan of pain from her. She growled while Omoi moved in for the kill. You let your guard down, he said and Naruto glared behind him before B's eye twitched. Karui gasped and even Samui was surprised as white chains came from Naruto's back and held Omoi in place. Omoi saw Naruto's devious grin while the blonde chuckled. Is that what you think? Yeah right, Naruto returned before his chains picked Omoi up and swung him around before he slammed his body against Karui. Naruto was surprised that the two disappeared in blurs of smoke leaving only logs in their places and narrowed his eyes. He turned to see Samui still deal with his clones. She didn't seem to be having that much trouble as she was very light on her feet. Naruto considered helping his clones with their fight, but he didn't try it. He also couldn't rely on Taiyuya, Fujikaze, Pakura, Dan, or Kimimaro this time. He had to remain as discreet as possible. He didn't like it, but he'd kept his secret to a low as far as other villages know. His own was starting to figure it out. However, that didn't mean that he couldn't try to have some fun. Naruto glanced left and right before he voice echoed. Alright, if you don't face me then I'll draw you out. Naruto shouted getting Samui to look at him. She noticed Naruto's sword stab the ground and he took a step back. She wanted to try and stop whatever he wanted to do, but his clones were becoming a bother. Raitun, Kamaron no Jutsu, Lightning Release, Divine Lighting Field Technique, Samui shouted as she kicked on of the clones in the jaw. Naruto watched in fascination as the clone was sent flying in an array of lightning blasts where it dispelled upon hitting a mountain. The blonde narrowed his eyes as the female blonde took the second clone's confusion as an opportunity to intercept Naruto himself. She quickly ran for him before she noticed a white fire appear on Naruto's hands. He touched the ground and Naruto smiled. You might want to run from this, Naruto told her and Samui could get the feeling that he was right as the ground started to shake. Honshu, Gensho Kairin, Power of Life, Field Dragon Blossoming, Naruto shouted at Samui watched a wave of white fire explode over the field. This fire? Is it the Amaterasu of the Uchiha clan? No, he's not an Uchiha. The flames are white. What is that? Samui thought to herself before she quickly stopped herself and ran in the opposite direction. The flames ran their course over the field and Samui was running out of running space before she decided to jump off the field and to the ground below. The fire blazed over the field getting Yugao to sigh. He really doesn't know how to hold back. I hope they are going to be alright, Yugao said to herself as she watched her teammate have his fight. B wasn't any better. He was watching the fight with a critical eye behind his sunglasses. Oh, those fires are hot. My team needs to get itself together or they are all for naught. Now we'll begin the counter. They will make him look like a flounder. Yeah, B said while the white flames died down. Naruto took a subtle breath. He had to fright his clones, and from its memories he could see that those flames hurt. Behind a mountain near the field, Karui, Omoi and Samui lightly huffed while the redhead of the team. "Man, what the fuck is this guy? He's insane," Karui said, more than a little irritated at this new development. "We would have had a better shot if you didn't run at him trying to take him out so fast. Because of that we left Samui subjected to his clones." Damn it, B-sensei wasn't kidding. He really could kill us if he wanted to. "So Samui, have you thought of anything?" Omoi asked while Samui folded her arms. She turned around to see Naruto looking left and right. She thought for a few seconds before turning back to her teammates. "We'll be working together now, so we'll go with this," Samui said as Karui and Omoi listened to her plan. The battleground was plain. Nothing was moving, but Naruto could feel the spirits telling him where his playmates were. The blonde just closed his eyes and waited for them all to arrive. He didn't have to wait long though, which was what he found out immediately. He opened his eyes and he noticed the 3 Chunin all around him. They had him cornered. "Nice job making us forget that we were supposed to attack you together. You really split us up, but now your luck is over," Karui grinned, but neither Samui nor Omoi could share in her thoughts. They all jumped together, and if Naruto could be serious then he was sure that he saw their hands blur for an instant as they all shouted. "Kyumoryu Omotajiri, Cloud-style front beheading," they all shouted at the same time. Naruto quickly swirled his chains around and they guarded against the assault on his person. Karui and Omoi were surprised to say the least before they saw Naruto's glare. Samui shared the same glare, and before Naruto could see it, he was kicked in the chin, sending him into the air. The blonde grunted and noticed Karui jump after him. He took notice that his sword still in the ground as he hadn't been able to get it in time. "Now you're finished," Karui shouted, and Naruto narrowed his eyes before he sighed and gave a smirk. "Well, this is as good a time as any, I guess," he mumbled, and Karui noticed the action of Naruto raising his fingers in the air. He quickly snapped them and they noticed a ripple of white honshu leave his body. "Kokunyugami no jutsu," Naruto mumbled, and just as he expected, everything stopped around him. The clouds stopped, Karui stopped in mid-air, the birds stopped their flight. Everything had stopped, except Naruto. The blonde breathed a breath of relief and backflipped to the ground. 5 minutes. That's how much time he had at his disposal to do what he wanted. Naruto looked at the still movements and snorted. "Wow, she was really ready to take my head off. This girl is crazy. She's like, Tayuya crazy. Well, whatever. So Kyubi, what do you think of them?" Naruto asked while Kyubi raised a tired eye at the 3 in front of him before closing it and scratching his head with his free claw. "Meh, you didn't have to waste a jutsu on those 3. Hachibi's container is by far the person that you will be scraping against. So what are you going to do?" Kyubi asked while Naruto snickered. "Oh, I'll think of something," Naruto said as he took out a scroll and a piece of paper. "Let's see these work," Naruto said with a smile on his face. He had used those 5 minutes to write 3 seals and place them around the perimeter. Kyubi could see what he was doing and snorted. "Really? You would use the sealing jutsu that your mother taught you right here? Didn't she tell you to only use this on those who truly deserve it?" Kyubi asked, and Naruto smiled. "Dead men tell no tales. Neither do those that don't see what I'm doing in the first place," Naruto responded, and Kyubi cackled with a nod of his head. "Whatever you say, brat," Kyubi said, and Naruto finished. He quickly stood away from Team Samui and stayed near the far corner of the field. He then released the jutsu. Karui continued to shout before she, Samui and Omoi watched Naruto blur in an orange flash before he disappeared from in front of them. Karui slammed the ground with her sword, getting a crack from it. "What the hell just happened? I had him in my sights." He was faster than B-sensei," Karui said in shock. Yugao released the breath that she didn't know she had been holding while B seemed confused. He didn't even see Naruto move, much less get to the opposite side of the field. That was fast. Was that the Hiraishin? Omoi asked while Samui narrowed her eyes. No, it wasn't, but if timed right then it's even faster. Naruto shouted, and the three tensed, then turned to see Naruto looking amused at their confused faces. How the hell did you do that? Karui shouted, and Naruto picked his ears. Not gonna tell you, Dadabayo, Naruto said simply, and that irked Karui before she, Samui and Omoi continued in their pursuit. They dashed for Naruto, looking to end everything before they heard two other voices. Too slow, you three. It was a fun fight. Now then, bye-bye, two Naruto clones said as the three touched seals on the ground. Immediately fire blazed from one to the other in a triangle shape while Naruto finished his hand signs. Fuin Jutsu, Sanho Fuin, sealing technique, three-direction seal, Naruto shouted, and the triangle from the seals show up and encased the three in light, forbidding their movement. Naruto could very well finish this technique. Oh yeah, this was just the first stage. There were at least three more that made it one of the most dangerous Fuinjutsu in the world, also one of the rarest ones. Not even Jiraiya could do this one. Get us out of here. Karui shouted, floating in the air while Samui and Omoi sighed. Man, we totally lost. Now he can do whatever he wants with us. He's just gonna kill me, then he's going to brainwash you two to take you home with him, where he'll do this and that to you both. This will lead to a decrease in Kumo's morale to Konoha, and then they'll invade to take us all as slaves. We're finished, Omoi said, getting a glare from Karui and Samui. How the former wanted to hit him at the moment. Well, sorry to disappoint you, but I don't plan on doing that shit. Not really my problem. However, you're right, I could do as I like with all of you, Naruto said, getting Samui and Karui to tense before the blonde shook his head. But I'm not that type of guy. I won. You were great, but that's the end of that, Naruto said, and his clones dispelled, allowing the triangle barrier to fall, letting Samui, Karui and Omoi go. They all sighed and sheathed their swords while Naruto walked to take his own back into its sheath. You were very cool. We have learned a lot from you, Samui said politely with a bow. Omoi bowed also, however Karui huffed and folded her arms. Samui's eyebrow twitched before she grabbed Karui's head and forced a bow from her also. Naruto bowed also, and they all quickly straightened up while B and Yugao took their places. I have one question though. How did you get so fast? Even I would have seen you move, Omoi said, and Naruto just smiled while he shook his head. Sorry. Trade secret. Would have to kill you if I told you, Naruto said, getting a small growl from Karui, but understanding from Samui and Omoi. Whoa, that was awesome. You really knew how to fight. You're lucky you weren't facing me, or I'd stop you with my might. Yeah, B said, getting a small glare from Naruto. Oh, I will fight you someday. I don't know when, but I'll make you eat those words, old man, Naruto said before he noticed B shake his head fervently. No, ya fool. It's, I'll make you eat those words, B-sama, got it, ya fool? B asked, and Naruto's response was to roll his eyes. Whatever you say, Teikowasan, Naruto said as he jumped away. Yugao gave a light bow before she followed after Naruto. I hate him, Karui said through growled teeth. Really? I thought he was kinda cool for a guy. He's at least capable of taking us with no problem. What do you think, Samui? Omoi asked as Karui turned to her also. They both saw Samui lightly touching her shoulder. She seemed to be lightly huffing before addressing Omoi's question. He's strange. Did you both feel it? Samui asked, getting the two to look at each other. Karui touched her back and Omoi touched his chest. You mean that burning that had happened when he activated the seal? Yeah, I felt it. My back was burning like all hell that time, Karui said, and Samui nodded. That's right. It must have something to do with Naruto-san. We'll have to keep an eye on him, Samui said, getting a groan from Omoi and a grin from Karui. With Naruto and Yugao. After some time, Naruto and Yugao appeared back in Kumo's streets, and immediately Naruto groaned as he touched his wrist. He slowly cursed while Yugao placed a hand on his shoulder. "Naruto, are you alright?" Yugao asked, and the blonde chuckled. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just a little pain is all. I think my seals were acting up for a second." "Nothing major," Naruto said, and while Yugao was still uncertain, she relented and left the issue alone. The two kept walking for a little while to finally go home and rest from the long day that they had been given. Now the sun was going down and lights were beginning to adorn the stores of the village. "Naruto, Yugao, there you are. Where have you been? And, Naruto, why are you so dirty?" Both members looked up and they noticed Sasuke, Kakashi, Kushina and Mikoto looking at them all. Kushina brushed a bit of dirt from Naruto's face and the blonde chuckled as he rubbed the back of his head. "I'm sorry about that. We got a little sidetracked," Naruto answered, which got him a blow to the head from his mother. His mother was actually fast enough to hit him, unlike Sakura. And strangely, Naruto felt good from it. Oh, what was wrong with him? Well, anyway, Tsunade is back from her meeting. Come on, we're going back to the hotel. Naruto is going to get washed up along with Yugao, and then we're all going to be going over some things. I have a feelings like we'll need to, Kushina said, getting nods from everyone before they all made their way back towards the house. So, what have you all been up to? Naruto asked out of the blue. Kakashi held up his book telling Naruto all he needed to know about that. Kushina placed her hands together and then leaned her head against them, telling Naruto that she had been sleeping. Mikoto smiled and Sasuke snorted as he tried to keep a blush from his face. Oh, you know. Mother-son things, Mikoto said, and Naruto widened his eyes before Kushina shook her head that it wasn't like her and him. Naruto then settled while Mikoto just kept up her grin. Yugao and Naruto glanced to each other until everyone came up to the hotel. Naruto saw Yura and Yuri run to him and engulf him in a hug before he noticed Yuna welcome Sasuke back, with a kiss to the lips. Naruto widened his eyes before he turned to see Mikoto grinning like mad. He tilted his head to the side as Mikoto explained. Flashback, 5 hours ago, after the recent conversation with Tsunade and the new dealings with the fight between the two Jinchuriki, then everyone had been off in search of Naruto and Yugao, who had disappeared faster than ramen during an Uzumaki night. Everyone had been out looking for them both. For Kushina it was a little harder because she couldn't feel Naruto's emotions for some reason. She wasn't sure why, but everyone just seemed to wait before resuming their search. They knew that if Yugao was with him then Naruto would be fine and would stay out of trouble. They hoped anyway. Mikoto sighed and sat on the bed that she and Yugao had been sharing. Mikoto quickly took off her Heineken attire and placed it down and quickly stayed in some more pleasant clothing, and just in time too as Sasuke came through the door. "Oh, you're in here. Well, I have been looking for the dobe. Sorry to bother you, Ka-san," Sasuke said, and Mikoto shook her head. "No, Sasuke, that's fine. Actually, this is perfect. Sasuke, can you get Yuna for me? I need to talk to you both," Mikoto said, and Sasuke raised an eyebrow. Playing it off as nothing, Sasuke just shrugged his shoulders. He quickly left and Mikoto smiled. She didn't know how this would go, but this secrecy wasn't for her. Nope, her son was to be open with her with all issues. After a few minutes, Yuna walked through the door with Sasuke right behind her. Mikoto could see that Yuna had some trouble looking straight at her eyes and smiled. Yuna sat in a chair while Sasuke sat in a chair opposite from her. The only thing that separated them was a table. "Alright then, why are you two so tense? Calm down. No one's in trouble or anything," Mikoto said, and that seemed to do the trick as Sasuke and Yuna relaxed. But let it be known that Mikoto could be an interrogator if she wanted to. Steeling her eyes, she glared before saying, "That is, unless you two have anything that you think you would be in trouble for trying to do behind my back." Yuna stiffened and Sasuke narrowed his eyes. Yeah, it was out and they had no other thing to do. Despite how tough she always seemed, for Sasuke, Yuna was the tomboy type. Girlish when she had to be, then tough like a guy the next. However, right now, she seemed to be on the verge of tears. So there was nothing else to do. That's right. It wasn't something that I meant to hide, but for Yuna's sake I did. I plan on fulfilling my ambition, Sasuke said, getting Yuna to suddenly stop and Mikoto to look at her son with her hard glare. Oh? And what would that be? Mikoto asked while Sasuke took a deep breath and cleared his throat. I plan on reviving the Uchiha clan while having Yuna by my side. I'm sorry that I hid it from you, but even if you're against it, I will continue to reach my goals with Yuna. Nothing is going to stop me, Sasuke said defiantly. Mikoto hid both her surprise and her amusement at Sasuke's seriousness behind her serious face. She saw his unwavering eyes before she broke her stare with her son and turned to Yuna. What do you have to say for yourself? Mikoto asked, getting a flinch from Yuna. I mean, you no disrespect, Mikoto-sama. I also mean no disrespect to the gratitude that you have shown me. At first I was ashamed with myself. Me for being who I am and just going for your son. So many times I had thought about ending it with him because I couldn't bear to think that you would hate both me and him. I never wanted that, but it seems that it was bound to come out. Yuna paused to catch her breath. Mikoto folded his arms over her chest before she saw Yuna smile. But I know I really care for Sasuke. I care for him a lot. You know my love life, or lack thereof. Sasuke's, the first man to actually want me for myself. I'm attracted to him. I can't help myself. I love Sasuke, Yuna said. A small grin came from Sasuke's face. Mikoto then stood up and walked off. Yuna and Sasuke looked at each other before they noticed Mikoto come back with her sword. She unsheathed it and placed it near Yuna's neck. Sasuke seemed ready to move, but Yuna stopped him. Humph, you love Sasuke? I don't see that. How did I know that you didn't trick my son? Mikoto asked, and Yuna closed her eyes. Because, Sasuke's the one who confessed to me and I began to see where my life had fully started. I wouldn't mind having a family with Sasuke. Actually, I would love it. Him and me, a not too big or too small house, 3 kids playing in the fields, me cooking and training them along with Sasuke. I just don't care. I want Sasuke. Forgive me, Mikoto-sama, I am selfish, Yuna said with a lone tear falling down her cheek. Sasuke widened his eyes. He never knew that Yuna would have wanted that, and neither did Mikoto. And your morals? Mikoto asked, and Yuna snorted. Morals? We're shinobi. What are morals? Yuna asked, and Mikoto closed her eyes. She sheathed her sword, getting relief from Sasuke and Yuna. Correct answer, Yuna-chan, Mikoto came out and said, getting Yuna to open her eyes in shock. Sasuke turned to his mother in confusion. Oh, I saw you two quite a while ago. Yeah, you two were really going at it. Actually, I was more than ready to actually maim one of you, but, as luck would have it, you have a sudden partner. It seems that Naruto-kun followed me and he made me think about some things. I had intentionally stayed quiet to see if you would come to me about it, but as it went on I suppose I had to get you both to tell me yourselves, and then this method was born. Honestly, I'm open. You both are old enough to know this and face consequences. You have my blessing, Mikoto said, and Yuna just stood there dumbfounded. Why, you knew? She managed to ask, and Mikoto nodded with a light giggle. Sasuke then turned to Yuna, grabbed her by the arm, and brought her into a kiss. Mikoto's eyebrow twitched, but she then smiled as Yuna fully gave into the kiss and wrapped her arms around Sasuke's shoulder. The two continued in their bliss before they parted. "I love you, Sasuke," Yuna said, and Sasuke had the decency to blush and smirk. "Yeah, me too, Yuna," Sasuke said, and before the two noticed it, Mikoto wrapped her arms around them and cleared her throat. "So when do I get my grandchildren so I can spoil them?" Mikoto asked while Sasuke groaned and Yuna blushed. "Kesen!" Sasuke shouted and Mikoto smiled. "What?" It was legitimate question. Flashback over Naruto snickered as he could totally see that happening. The glare he got from Sasuke made his celebration stop short. He held up a hand that said that he understood and quickly left it at that. Naruto turned his head to see Kushina glaring at him and winced. What is it?" Naruto asked before Kushina pulled him by the ear. "I thought I said for you to go wash up Databane," Kushina said, taking a yelling Naruto with her. "Ow ow ow, Ka-chan. Alright, I'm going, can I have my ear back now?" Naruto asked, shouting, while the others looked on at the amused scene in front of them. However, they all missed Kushina grinning at Yura and Yuri, who were pouting. Yeah, she got Naruto to herself this night. Just as soon as he washed up. Back in Yuzushiogakure, arg, I can't take it anymore. You. Why are you still alive, damn it? I heard you died like 2 years ago, Suigetsu said, looking at Zabuza. Jugo and Karen, who were helping Rin and Haku clean, had looked up to see Zabuza placed his Kubikuribocho on the ground, letting it carve the dirt a little. "What are you talking about, punk?" Zabuza asked, more than a little irritated. Suigetsu had been tailing him around with his menacing glare all day for a few weeks, and it had been getting on the demon of the mist's last nerve. "I'm talking about, why do you have that sword?" "That's Mangetsu's blade," Suigetsu said while Zabuza squinted his eyes at Suigetsu. He could now see the familiar resemblance between the two brothers. Suigetsu was obviously the youngest out of them and, he was alive. Don't assume anything, brat. I lent the blade to Mangetsu. Nothing more than that. This is mine. You want it? Suigetsu nodded earnestly while Zabuza smirked. Then try and pry it from my cold, dead hands if you can, Zabuza said, daring Suigetsu to try and take him, which both knew he couldn't, making it all the more frustrating for Suigetsu, who just slumped back into his chair. Damn that Sasuke. He told me that I could have Kubikuribocho if I helped him out. Just fucking great. That prick, Suigetsu said to himself before he got a rag to the face. He groaned and pulled it off, looking at Karen, who adjusted her glasses. Oi Suigetsu, stop moping about your damn swords and help us clean. That way Sasuke-kun will thank me for cleaning his house, Karen said with a blush. Technically, this is Naruto-kun's house, Haku and Rin said, smiling, while Karen growled while she just continued to clean. Besides that, I don't see why you're trying so hard. Sasuke's got a girlfriend already, or did the heated kiss in front of your face not mean anything? Suigetsu asked, and Karen growled, plowing through some furniture. She didn't say anything before she blurted out. Girls like that lose their appeal soon enough. Sasuke-kun will realize that I'm the only one for him, Karen said with a triumphant smirk. Everyone who heard her shook their heads, as they were sure that Karen was from the part of the Uzumaki clan that had that weirdness to them apart from the already big mixture of personalities. Well, I like his company. Uzumaki-san is a very down-to-earth person. It was amazing. One time when I couldn't stop my urge, he just wielded these white chains and they stopped me, suck out my chakra until the urge was gone. He's like Sasuke-san and Kimimaro-san, Jugo said while Karen snorted. Are you kidding? He's a goofy, weird, irresponsible dash. Karen stopped as an ice senbon stuck the wall inches from her face. Sorry, my hand slipped, Haku said, giggling sweetly before she collected it. Karen gulped while Haku leaned over. Please, don't go insulting Shiken-sama or the consequences will be dire. Understood? Haku whispered with a smile, glaring at the wall, and Karen felt a shiver go down her spine as she felt the stare of an Oni mask hardening its evil eyes on her body. Gigi got it. You're right. He's family. Shouldn't talk like that, Karen said, and she scrambled away from Haku, who just placed a hand to her mouth and smiled. Oh, Karen-san, you're so funny, but I'm glad we had this talk. Now then, on to the next room, Haku said, and as she walked away, everyone saw the flowers in the pots freeze into ice crystals. Whoa, she's downright scary, Suigetsu said, and Rin rubbed her head. Yar. Sorry about that. She's overprotective is all, Rin said, holding out her hand, and Karen nodded as she took the hand as Rin helped her to her feet. And I'll do worse to you than her if you do insult Shikin-sama one more time. I've been learning to get acquainted with my body. I might have been behind in maturity, but I think I've caught up in my studies and I've gotten much stronger. Jonin level if I had to think about myself. Stood? Rin asked, and Karen flinched again before Rin walked away. What do you think she meant when she said Shikin-sama? Suigetsu asked while Jugo shrugged his shoulders. Who knows? Maybe it's just a title. Just like Zabuza-san's Demon of the Hidden Mist, Jugo contemplated, and Suigetsu just shrugged his shoulders. Oh, also Karen, did you do that thing that the Uzumaki guy asked you to do? Suigetsu asked, and Karen stopped her shivering to remember that time. Flashback, 3 weeks earlier. So, what did you need me for? Karen asked, walking around the corner to see her cousin leaning against the wall. Naruto had a less than nicely pleased look on his face. He then sighed and took his shirt off. This of course flustered Karen as she covered her eyes. Bibaka, what are you doing? Put your shirt back on. Karen shouted while Naruto rolled his eyes. This is why I called you out here. You know you have to open your eyes for this, Naruto said, and Karen's blush intensified. She wasn't prepared for this just yet. Moreover, it was her family. She should say no. She should stop it from happening. I'm not experienced at that, Karen said, and Naruto snorted. You're not experienced at making seals? Naruto asked, and Karen was confused before she opened her eyes to see the seals that covered Naruto's chest and body. The seal of the Shinigami had stretched from his hand through his arms, up to his shoulder, made their way to his other arm and hand, while still dropping in the center of his stomach to completely mix with the Kyuubi seal. For Karen, it was the most intricate sealing that she had ever seen. Well, you said that you didn't have experience, so I guess you can't help. Sorry for the waste. I just needed someone to be able to break this structure down and see if they could make a weapon out of it, Naruto said, and Karen widened her eyes. No, wait, sorry, I was just taken off by you taking your shirt off so suddenly. Can you do that again? Karen asked, and Naruto just shrugged. He took his shirt off and let it drop while Karen took a more examined look. She adjusted her glasses over Naruto's seal before taking a piece of paper and tracing it. It felt weird. She felt that she could understand it. Understand what the seals were telling it. Maybe it was her Uzumaki blood, but she felt like she could hear the voice of the seals guiding her pen through the paper. Karen had long since finished what she needed and just felt like examining Naruto. He was just as fit, if not fitter than Sasuke. His toned muscles and muscular chest. A perfect specimen that Karen couldn't take her eyes from it. I'm not to rush, but are you done? Naruto asked, and Karen snapped from her antics. Huh? Oh yeah, I'm done. You can cover it now, Karen said, and Naruto placed his shirt down. Please work on that for me, Karen-chan, would really appreciate it. Thank you, Naruto said, and gave a quick kiss to her cheek, then left. Karen just stood near the wall and blinked. What the hell just happened? Flashback over. Hey Karen, are you alright? Your face is red, Jugo said concerned, and Karen looked up to see Suigetsu raising his eyebrow at her while Zabuza just didn't seem to care. Karen quickly shot up and adjusted her glasses like she normally did. Shut up, Jugo. I'm fine. Ah, forget it. I'm going to the study. Don't bother me. Karen said, storming off, leaving an amused Suigetsu and confused Jugo behind. What did I do? Jugo asked while Suigetsu shook his head. Women, who could figure them? Especially Uzumaki women. Back in Kumo, Lemon removed having cleaned up a little. Kushina and Naruto sat on the bed and Kushina leaned against Naruto's body. Sochi, while I am glad for this, it wasn't the reason I called you to my room. I wanted to tell you of Tsunade's meeting with the Raikage. Naruto's eyes straightened up and he nodded for his mother to continue. Since losing a woman named Yujito Ni to Akatsuki, then Kumo has also been weary of them and they fear for the Raikage's brother. They had heard how Gara-san was taken out and they think that an alliance is best also. However, there was a fight about past problems and it came out to say that it's not Kumo who needs the alliance, but it's Konoha. Tsunade and they had the heated argument and it came down to saying that Konoha was doing it for the world. Which she said, but it translates as A's an ass and I want Naruto to beat the crap out of their Jinchuriki to show that we're not weak. Get it, Sochi? Kushina asked and Naruto grumbled. Where is Bachan anyway? Naruto asked and Kushina sighed. Out drinking her problems away as usual, Kushina responded while Naruto furled his hair with his hands. Man, that's not good. I met their Jinchuriki today. Yeah, Ka-chan, more than likely this is going to end with my first death, Naruto said and Kushina widened her eyes. She turned back to Naruto wanting him to explain and Naruto nodded. This guy is a better Jinchuriki than me. Kyubi says that he can kick my ass because of the connection he felt between Kurabi and Hachibi. It will actually take me, Shin and Kyubi together to at least survive. Granted, yes, I can't die, but you know. Firsthand you could kick my ass, granted I'd give you a good run, but you're naturally faster than me. However, I'm catching up to you. Ka-chan, I don't know if I'll win. This is at best an 80-20 on me doing it, and that 20 is just because Honshu is more powerful than Chakra or Yuki and because Shin can revive me, but even then it's bad. Ka-chan, there is something I didn't tell you about Shin being able to revive me, Naruto said and Kushina listened on. The Shinigami said that he couldn't. Naruto stopped with a loud shout. Oh Sasuke! Naruto and Kushina looked below them and both their eyebrows twitched before Naruto shuddered at the slight memories that came into his head before he shook them aside for later. He said that he couldn't. Kumogakure, underground cell Kamachi kept her head plastered against the stone wall. She didn't know how long she had been in there, but it was at least a good week or so. The interrogations had stopped with the arrival of Konoha a few days ago and now Kamachi was laying in her cell without her armor, her sword, or her weapons. The 20-year-old female was only wearing a prison undergarment and nothing more. She had just been in Danzo's service for a good majority of her life. Spending no time but training, taking S-rank missions for the betterment of Konoha, and then Danzo had been found out. Root had to be relocated and now Kamachi had wondered what she had been fighting for. Was it Konoha? No, probably not. It didn't need her anymore. Was it Root? Not likely either. She didn't have the emotions to care about something like that. Was it Danzo? Yeah, right. Try again. Kamachi was inaudible. She never spoke, or rather, she wasn't sure what could get her to talk. A small bang to her cell alerted her and she noticed one of her Root comrades looking at her. He narrowed his eyes at her and Kamachi was sure that she knew what was going to happen, but she wanted to hear it for herself. Kamachi, Danzo sends his regards. I will confirm with that you alive. In the event that you are found alive, then he told me to inform you of this. Kamachi, to be caught by the enemy is disgraceful to not only yourself, but to Root and me. Enjoy your time in your cell. I have no use for those who are incompetent. Kamachi-san, I shall leave you now. However, not without doing this. You must never remember the bases to root, the root member said and touched Kamachi's head with a green hand. Kamachi's only expression was to widen her eyes before they turned blank and she fell to the ground. Sayonara Kamachi-san, the root umbu said, then quickly left. As Kamachi laid there, her conscience fleeting, she thought to only one thing. As expected. I've been forsaken. What am I supposed to protect now? Kamachi's eyes closed and so did the memories of the bases, information, and any other things linking her to Danzo. Now Kumo wouldn't get anything from her, and like that, her usefulness to them would end as well. Somewhere, too. Days later, Danzo sat against a desk looking over some papers before he felt a presence behind the door. Appear, he said, and a root member came through the door and quickly bowed. Our agent has been taken care of. All information regarding root has been taken care of, Danzo-sama. What are your orders? The male asked, and Danzo stood to his feet as he looked over a kindling fireplace. He poked his staff against the ground a few times. How is the councilwoman in Kumo? Danzo asked, and the root umbu bowed a little lower. Your acquaintance is faring well. However, it seems to be hard for her to maintain the control over the rakeage. She says that she is losing pull in the council because Kumo is starting to see Konoha eye to eye, the root member answered, and Danzo nodded. Very good. You are dismissed, Danzo said, and just like that, the root umbu left quickly, leaving Danzo alone. He just kept looking at the fire as he didn't have to do anything to feel the presence behind him. You seem quite adjusted in this place, Danzo. Feeling scared since you were found out by Konoha? Danzo turned around and he noticed Tobi glaring at him from behind his mask. However, he also noticed that unlike his right hand that was just seeable by the sleeves of his Akatsuki cloak, his left was completely vacant. Danzo knew that he didn't have a weapon cause he would have seen the shift of clothing. Nope, maybe, just maybe. It has its merits, Madara, unlike you. But unpleasantness aside, mind showing me your left arm? Danzo asked, and he saw Tobi glare hatefully at him. He used his right hand and gripped his left shoulder. Yeah, I want you to take a good look at it, Tobi said, and pulled the sleeve up to show that he was completely left armless. Zetsu had entirely cut it off, leaving no trace that it was ever there. In fact, it was still healing, and Zetsu told Tobi not to be moving around, but he was stubborn like that. That's too bad. So what brings you to me? Danzo asked, though he had a very good idea of what the man wanted to see him about. What brings me here is what you told me about the Kyubi Jinchuriki. You never told me that he was capable of the Hiraition, Tobi said, getting Danzo to arch an eyebrow. He isn't, Danzo said simply, and even Tobi had limits to his patience. He lunged at Danzo and grabbed him by the collar. Tread carefully, Danzo. Even with one arm, I can still bring your entire organization down to the ground in but a few hours. Now make sense. He was just as fast as the Yondaime, and to be able to hit me when I wasn't expecting it is nothing small. Tell me how even my Sharingan couldn't follow him. Tobi said, and Danzo grunted. I know not of such abilities. It's obvious that he's been improving. Has he become so much that even the mighty Madara cannot best him? No wonder your time came, Danzo said, and Tobi dropped him. Watch yourself, Danzo. You are only still around because I will it. Nothing more, Tobi said before disappearing into a small wormhole. Danzo narrowed his eyes at the place where Tobi stood and snorted. You are more of an old fossil than me. Don't think that I'm not wise to your tricks, Danzo said to nothing before turning around to stare at the fire and feel its lovely warmth. With Naruto hopped across the Kumo rooftops. He had on his Heineken attire that camouflaged him perfectly with the dark. On his face was an Oni mask that would hide his features. He couldn't very well do this while he was still himself. He was taking a large enough risk as it already was, but with his Honshu-powered eyes then he could see the spirits of good Kumo, Iwa, Suna, and even Konoha people guiding him. It just showed Naruto that multiple people had died in any given nation from other nations. Something to know. They frantically called him, and it was the summoner's duty to see the problems of his summons or subjects. The spirits all converged on one spot, a particularly building. One to the very edge of Kumo's walls. "The shit that I put up with," Naruto said with a shake of his head. He landed to the rooftops and he noticed a Kumo Chunin with a flashlight surveying the area. Naruto silently moved behind him and with a quick touch to the Chunin's neck, sent him crashing to the ground unconscious. "Sorry about that, Dadabayo," Naruto said, searching his body, and quickly pulled out a key. The blonde grinned with a nod and the spirits passed through the door easily while Naruto looked left and right. Seeing the coast was clear, he inserted the key and opened the door. A perfect fit. The door opened to a flight of stairs going underground and Naruto quickly ran through while adjusting his mask altogether. He saw a small light and stopped. He moved his head from the corridor and looked into the room. He noticed a man with blonde hair just like his yawning while glaring hatefully at a blonde woman-tied chair. Naruto looked up and he noticed all of the spirits gathering in the room and pointing to the two blondes urgently. Naruto narrowed his eyes and looked up before mouthing, "What about them?" The spirits rolled their eyes as they very well couldn't talk at the moment. While Sure couldn't hear them, they would release Honshu when they spoke and that would alert him to Naruto. They pointed to Naruto's swirl tattoo and then flew to point to Sure and Kamachi. Naruto widened his eyes in realization and understanding. "Oh, they're both Uzumaki blood member. Well, isn't that fucking great? Oh, this is gonna be more complicated than I wanted," Naruto thought to himself. "She's not talking. It looks like she's been hit by a drug or something. She's of no use to us. Take her back to her cell." No doubt Danzo snuck in and cleaned up his dirty work, Sure said, getting a salute from Kumo Jonin, who unlocked Kamachi's restraints to a chair and took her off. Naruto jumped back and vanished in the dark hallway while Kamachi and her warden walked away. "Wait," he said, "Danzo. Was she with Root then? She looks a little older than me. I looked at all the medical records and Ka-chan said that she never had any other children. She said the pain of having me was enough. I would know that much. Still, what am I supposed to do here?" Naruto thought to himself and grumbled. He saw the Jonin come back and talk with Sure for a bit. Naruto took this chance to quickly distort time and made his way down the hallway before it resumed. That was one time. Naruto raced through the halls and saw various prisoners. Some from Kumo itself, Iwa, Kiri, and Suna. Strangely, no one from Konoha, but if there were then they wouldn't be meeting like this now, would they? The spirits guided Naruto to Kamachi's cell and the blonde made a complete halt. He looked through the bars and he noticed Kamachi leaning against the wall. Her body was more than a little bruised up from interrogations, but she still seemed to be full of life. That was if Naruto seeing the fire at the middle of her stomach was any indication. That fire represented the lifespan a person had, and this woman was only starting to diminish. She wouldn't be dying anytime soon. "Hey," Naruto called out. The woman didn't react to his voice and continued to lean against the wall. "Hey," Naruto said a little louder. By this time, she might have heard him, but just decided not to answer. Naruto narrowed his eyes and sighed. "The things I do," Naruto said to himself. He knelt down, picked up a stone and skipped it to hit the wall in front of the woman. Kamachi noticed the stone in front of her and slowly turned her head, getting her eyes adjusted to the darkness. She could see a red Oni mask floating in the air. It was too dark for her to see the rest of Naruto's body. However, Kamachi kept an emotionless face to the sight in front of her, though she was intrigued. "Who are you?" Naruto asked, pointing to her. Kamachi just blinked before leaning against the wall, getting Naruto to sigh. Sheesh, what's wrong with you? I'd think that Danzo would at least teach you some courtesy, Naruto told her. Kamachi showed no visible reaction to what he said. Well, whatever. Look, I'm going to get you out of here, Naruto said, and that seemed to do the trick somewhere as he noticed Kamachi unconsciously shift. She glared back at Naruto, but said nothing. Ugh, look, I can't save you if you don't tell me your name. Well, that's not true. I guess I could still do that. But I'd like to know your name at least. Something that family does for each other? Okay? Naruto asked, and he could see that Kamachi was more or less confused about that concept. Oh, come on. Family, man, did Danzo do a job on you, Dadabayo? Asshole, turning such a cute, lovely face into a drone. Ugh, Naruto said, and Kamachi just blinked at the unusual compliment to her appearance. Alright, so we've established that Danzo fucked with your mind or something like that. Now then, he at least let you keep your name. Come on. Lovely lady like yourself. You should have a very nice name. Silence reigned through the prison cells and Naruto rolled his eyes. Guess not. Alright then. I'll leave. See you later, Naruto said, beginning to walk away. Kamachi's eyes followed his leaving figure, and like a light, she felt it was dwindling. Her mouth moved and opened. Kamachi, she said in a raspy voice. Naruto paused and backed up. Huh? What was that? Naruto asked, and Kamachi looked back at his form, getting used to the darkness now. The only thing I remember is my name. My name is Ko-ma-chi, she said, and Naruto nodded. Alright, Kamachi. I'll get you out of here, Naruto said before he saw a kunai to his neck. I wonder about that. Did Danzo come back to clean up his trash? Sure asked, and Naruto glared behind his mask. Hey now. Those things are dangerous, Naruto said, and Sure growled. That's the point. Now then, tell me, who are you working for? Ready to get her out? Then I'll never let you take her. Get ready, Sure shouted, and Naruto got into a fighting stance. Kamachi watched her savior and her enemy glare at each other. Die! Sure shouted as he launched at Naruto. The blonde quickly blocked Shure's kunai strike to his chest. He countered with a kick that sent Shure into the wall. Naruto grinned and backflipped next to Kamachi's cage. Kamachi could hear the clashes of metal against metal, and while she wasn't trying to fully hear, some small part of her wondered how she even got to this prison in the first place. Naruto kicked Shure in the jaw and dodged a wave of kunai at his face. Naruto blocked them all while Shure landed on the ground. I'll see your face soon enough. Once I do, every Kumo Shinobi in this vicinity will be alerted, and you will be sharing nice little cell with this bitch, Shure said, and Naruto narrowed his eyes. That wasn't what he needed at the moment, as Shure finished his hand signs and Naruto snapped his fingers. Kokenugami no Jutsu, Naruto said, and time stopped as Shure was almost finished. Naruto had to hurry and quickly took out a piece of paper. He quickly wrote on it and, with great effort, slipped it on Kamachi's mattress before he got up. Jikuyugami no Jutsu, Naruto shouted as he outstretched his right hand. Immediately the purple portal appeared in front of him, and he thought, this, I'll get you out of here. Don't worry. I'll also make our other family see the light. That's what he's doing now. See you later, Kamachi-chan, Naruto thought to himself before he vanished into the portal. Raijin Rake, huh? Where did he go? Damn it, did I let him escape? Shure said angrily before he slammed the wall. He then looked back to Kamachi and snorted while lowering his hands to his side. Don't get happy just because one of your own got in here. He won't do it again. You'll be with us for a long time, Shure said before he walked off. Kamachi closed her eyes. In truth, she was wondering where Naruto had gone in such a flash. 1 second he was there and the next he wasn't. Weird if Kamachi had to think so. Kamachi got up and walked to her bed. She laid down and only then did she notice the note in front of her. She opened it and read through it. Kamachi's eyes slightly widened before she closed her eyes and clutched the note tightly, allowing it to put her mind to sleep. She might not have known how she got in the prison or even the last few years of her life, but this note just seemed to be tailor-made for her. With Naruto stepped through the portal and landed in his mother's bedroom in the Kumo hotel that Heineken had been staying. He saw a clone and his mother waiting for him while he took off the Oni mask on his face. He quickly dismissed the clone and sat on the bed. He burned the mask in his hand and furled his hair with his hands. "It's just like I thought," Naruto said, and Kushina sat next to him while rubbing his shoulder. "It's already Sochi. We'll think something for it," Kushina responded, and Naruto just nodded. He really hoped that she was right and that they could do it. Kamachi was depending on it. Back in Konoha, "Koharu, would you come out of the library? This is ridiculous." Hamura called as he banged his fists against the door with Koharu inside. Since the council incident, then Koharu seldom went outside. The news of herself and Dan had spread like wildfire and her image had thoroughly been ruined. Multiple people questioned her integrity and others seemed to deem her at fault for Dan's death and, in context, Tsunade's leaving Konohagakure. Her reputation as an upstanding Konoha shinobi had been more than ruined and she rarely went outside. This was one of those times. She had been in the library for whatever reason. There has to be something here. Anything. I know that wasn't any genjutsu. I could feel it. Everyone could see it. That was real. Why was it happening to me though? I didn't even do anything. It's all going so wrong. All of it. It's all been wrong since that damn brat came back to the village. Everything has gone below for me because of him, Koharu said as she read all of the books in front of her with the various umbu surrounding her and the visible light of a ceiling light over her head. Most would have deemed her insane by this time, but Koharu was one of the most brilliant minds in Konoha for a reason. The contributions that she had made to Konoha as a whole could not be counted against her. Koharu stood abruptly to her feet, surprising the surrounding umbu before she walked to a bookshelf. She took out a scroll and placed it on the table. Normally civilians couldn't go through shinobi scrolls, but those like Koharu and Hamura were certain or special cases. They had been shinobi in their lives and had done Konoha good, so they were able to look into scrolls so long as they had shinobi jonin or higher watching them. Koharu had heard the reports from Suna. Naruto had managed to find a medical book about reviving the dead just minutes after their departure. It had taken some haggling, but she got that information. But it makes no sense. If what I know about the human body is correct, then it shouldn't be possible. There is no other way to explain something, unless Koharu stopped and widened her eyes. She then opened her elderly eyes slightly and nodded to herself. She smirked and furled up the scroll in her hands. Yes, that makes sense. It's genius. How could it not be? How did I not see it after so long? Oh, course it was possible, Koharu said, jumping up, and she walked towards the door. She opened it and surprised Hamura. Koharu, stop this right now. Something is wrong with you. You need to lay down, Hamura said, sounding concerned, but he had no reason to be. Koharu knew that very well. She turned back to Koharu and shook her head. I'm just fine, Hamura. Follow me. We're going to the morgue, Koharu said, walking off with Hamura following her. It was only a theory, but damned if it wasn't a good one. She just needed the points to test this theory, and if she was right, then it would all be possible. She could see that herself. What are you going to find at the morgue? Hamura asked, and Koharu looked back. Truth, Hamura. Truth, she said, and the two elders continued to walk away into the darkness. Sometimes there were always reasons to be happy. Even if you had to make them yourself. Hotel room, Kumogakure. The sunlight permeated the silk blinds of the hotel room that Naruto and Kushina had been sharing. The bed, Naruto laid sleeping, and the sounds of the birds chirping could very well wake him up, but it didn't, as Naruto had been up a little late thinking about the things that had happened in Kumo's little prison that he had discreetly visited. No doubt Kumo had already informed its Raikage that an intruder had been sighted there. Especially since they were taking with one of Danzo's subordinates. So Naruto barely had the sleep since he had been trying to process everything that night. Normally Naruto would have just tried to have taken Kamachi from her cell and teleported her to Uzumaki, and he very well could have done that, but a few things stopped him. One was that he didn't know why she had been in there in the first place. Uzumaki or not, people had to pay for their crimes, and Naruto knew that Sasuke knew that firsthand, even if the Uchiha got off easy. The second reason was that Kumo would suspect Konoha of doing it, and as Kushina and Tsunade had told him, the two villages were already at odds with each other as they were. He would very well cause a national incident from that lone action. The last and lone reason for this was also because of Kamachi's apparent memory. She only knew her name, and that was almost sort of a problem for Naruto. He had never really had a plan for such a problem. If Kamachi had her memory lost, then Kumo could very well kill her, since she wouldn't be able to tell them anything. All of this, Naruto had been thinking about before he had gone to sleep, and right now, this little bit of rest was just heaven for the blonde. When he woke up, he would think of an action, which for him, would be much sooner than he expected. The door to his room clicked open and a figure came through. It stepped along the carpet quietly and snuck over to Naruto's side of the bed. The figure smiled before kneeling down and gently placing their lips to Naruto's in a soft kiss. Naruto groaned and opened his eyes. The faint feeling of moist lips he recognized before his eyes blasted open. He took in the figure's shape before he sighed mentally. The kiss was broken and Naruto grinned. "What are you doing, Yuri?" Yuri smiled before she quickly hopped into the bed while Naruto turned over. Yuri sat against Naruto's waist and straddled him over the bed sheets. She leaned over and gave a coy smile. "I thought to wake you up, Ni-san." It seemed to be the best way to do so, and look, you're already up, Yuri said to him, and Naruto just stared at her blankly before she leaned over and quickly devoured Naruto's lips again. This time Naruto fully accepted the intimate gesture as their tongues danced around together. Yuri moaned lightly to her Uzumaki brother's mouth and against the slowly rising hard-on he had in the sheets. The two broke apart and Yuri licked her lips while Naruto smiled. "It's a very good wake-up call, Yuri-chan. You're right, I am up. Not like I was planning to go back to sleep anyway." Naruto leaned up and Yuri gave him the space to do so. The blonde Uzumaki turned his head before he noticed his mother's side of the bed, which was very much vacant. Naruto blinked and turned his head slightly back to Yuri. "Where's Ka-chan?" Naruto asked. "She went with Tsunade Obasan to the Raikage mansion. Something she told us about something coming up." "She didn't go into details," Yuri answered, and Naruto sighed with a nod before he shifted his body and got up from the bed. He opened the curtains and quickly noticed the clouds in his view. "Well, all right then. I guess that was bound to happen anyway." "Well, I'm going to take a shower," Naruto said, and Yuri perked up. "Can I join you?" she asked with a gleam in her eyes that Naruto noticed. He chuckled to himself and, unknown to him, Kyubi gave a lecherous grin signifying that the nine-tailed Bijou was also awake. "Now Yuri, you know that if you did come with me then we'd never leave that shower. In fact, I think you might be even more dirty than before," Naruto responded. Yuri pouted as she continued to sit on the bed covers where Naruto had previously been. "Well then, you just have to thoroughly wash my body." "From top to bottom," Yuri answered. Naruto managed to not fault at the perverted answer and resisted the urge to outright laugh. If Yura had heard any of this from her little sister and from Naruto, then she more than likely would have had a meltdown. Save it for back home. Besides, I always did like my dinner when it's back at home, Naruto said, letting that hang in the air. Now it was Yuri's turn to blush as she instantly pictured Naruto eating her. Oh, that's not a bad food sampling at all. When did I get so perverted, Databayan? I must be hanging around Fukune too much, Yuri thought to herself. Seeing that the battle had been won in Naruto's favor, the blonde closed the door to the bathroom and allowed the hot water to wash over his form. Tomorrow would be his fight against B and he had everything ready. The Kokonyugami and Jikuyugami, that he used back at the prison, had returned to his usage. His sword was cleansed and polished. He was more than ready, but Naruto felt something ominous. He just felt that during that fight, even if it was just once or twice, that he would experience death. He would experience what so many had done to them. It unnerved Naruto, the feeling of dying. Until I become Hokage, there is no way I'm going to die. Those words lingered in Naruto's mind from his youth. His entire viewpoints on death had changed after meeting Shin. He found that if Shin hadn't been convinced by his resolve, then he would have taken his soul and none of the things that had happened here would have happened at all. Now that Naruto thought about it, how much had changed from his meeting Shin. If Naruto hadn't met Shin, he might have died while Kakashi ran him to the hospital. If he had survived, then he would have still felt that diminished resolve of bringing Sasuke back, which he had accomplished. He wouldn't have been able to save Yuri and Yura from their fates at the hands of those freaks. He wouldn't have a sword or a team like this. He wouldn't be such good friends with Kyuubi. He wouldn't have been able to bring back Yukimaru and Guren. Sasuke might not have returned, nor would Mikoto or Yuna. Uzushiogakure would still be a mess. Fuka might be dead. He wouldn't have known about Taiyuya, Pakura, Fujikaze, Dan, or Kimimaro. He wouldn't have Honshu. Gaara might be dead. He might not have his mother, his lover. So many things, Shin. So many things I have to be thankful to you for. I know it's not much, but thank you for finding an interest in me. Thank you for accepting me. Also, thank you for this life I have, Naruto said in the shower. He sighed blissfully and smiled, looking up at the ceiling. Ironic that the death god would be the one to revive Naruto's life. Unknown to him, Shin had indeed heard the blonde through the summoning contract on the blonde's hand. The death god closed his eyes and folded his arms. I had nothing to do with it, Shere Khan. This is all you. I have told you. I keep an eye on things that I find to be interesting. Death does not interest me anymore. The things that interest me is the desire for those to live their lives. You know this firsthand, Shere Khan. I doubt you'll make me regret giving you this power, Shin said in his thoughts before he took up his purple arm and slashed it down over someone's body, letting the screaming person die and be sent into his realm. A death god's work is never done. Naruto stepped out of the shower and quickly decided to put his clothes on. He couldn't train normally, this being Kumogakure and not Konoha, but he could still very well try something. His Jikuyugami, Naruto had a feeling that it still wasn't right. Granted, yes, it was the combined result of creating a distorted space in an already distorted space. When it went down to something for speed, then it was sort of slow. The time for it to form, to think of a location and then teleport. Also, he felt that maybe he could use shape manipulation for it. He wasn't sure, but he would try something out a little later. Yuri, where are the others? I assume that they should all be doing something currently, Naruto said, and Yuri nodded, sort of blushing from her brother's well-toned body. She swallowed the lump in her throat and spoke. Well, Kakashi-san is still sleeping in his room, I think. Yuna-chan and Sasuke-san are also sleeping. Mikoto-san went with Kushina-san and Tsunade-obe-san to the Reikage mansion. Lastly, Yugao-san and Yura-nichan went out into the streets. Yurane asked Yugaone if she could teach her a little bit about swords. She was interested in a katana like Yugaone. I think that's everyone except you and me, Yuri answered. Naruto nodded and decided to seal his sword into a scroll and placed it inside his clothing. Well, alright. So how would you like to spend the day with me? We haven't done that just yet, Naruto said, and Yuri nodded with a smile. Alright, where are we going? Yuri asked, and Naruto snickered. A place that sometimes I wonder why I always have to remind myself why I'm there, Naruto said before he made his way out of the door with Yuri right behind him. She had blinked at his vague answer to her question, but if Naruto was leading her then she would know it soon enough. She probably could just know that maybe it was going to be something that involved training. Not just for her, but for him. When Yuri had been freed from her capture by Akatsuki, then she stepped up her training. Mikoto and Fuka taught her a few katan techniques while Kakashi taught her 3 doton styles. Yuri's affinity happened to be water, but she said that she wanted other techniques before working on the things that she wasn't good at before getting to the things that she would get easily. Sasuke and Yugao tried to teach her swordplay, but Yuri hadn't picked it up well and settled for trying to fight with kunai like she normally did. As expected, Haku had been working with Yuri on her speed and her stealth. Zabuza was going to teach her water and Rin would teach her healing. Lastly was Naruto and Kushina, who would soon teach Yuri seal-making. It seemed that Uzumaki had something in their blood that naturally made it easy to understand seals. They could decipher the most complex of them in a few hours that most wouldn't be able to do in a month. It had been taught to her and Naruto by Kushina. A special feeling that all Uzumaki had. That's why when Naruto held up a complex seal array to Yuri, she could feel the seals talking to her, telling her what it was all about. It had been weird for her, but she had understood it, to a point, but she would learn all that later. Right now, she had to catch up to her brother. Reikage Mansion Tsunade sat in front of A, while the Reikage sat behind his desk. Kushina and Mikoto were against the walls with Darui and Mabui in the room as well. A narrowed his eyes from behind his desk and Tsunade had her arms folded. Between the two of them was a folder, one that Sure had handed to the Reikage just a few moments ago. And you think that we are the ones who know about this? Tsunade asked, getting a glare from A. Darui seemed ready for anything to happen, and so did Mabui. Both Tsunade and A were known for their short tempers, and both were more than likely the most powerful of their village. Both had brute strength to back up almost anything. However, where it came down to it, then Tsunade was stronger than A, but A was much faster than her. Tsunade could testify to that when the two had met at one point and had a little arm wrestle. I find it to be too much of a coincidence that as soon as we have a prisoner, you arrive for a supposed treaty, and then there is a disturbance at our prison from Sure that someone went for that prisoner claiming that they would get her out. Was that it? A rescue mission on the guise of a treaty, Tsunade? You always might have been crafty, A said before Tsunade snorted and slammed her hand on the table. Not enough to break it, but enough to get a small flinch from Darui and Mabui. Bullshit that we knew about it. The only ones I brought were those of our group. Whoever it was that you saw, then it was more than likely not one of ours, Tsunade growled to him. I'm looking at this from how it appears. You being here and then this happening is a little much to call a chance. You proposed this alliance to fight the group known as Akatsuki. Kumo is indeed aware of them after they infiltrated our village and snatched Yujito from our sight, and that is why trust is a very important issue. Kumo and Konoha are at odds for the last thing that happened. I am sure you know what I'm talking about, A said, and Tsunade narrowed her eyes. Oh, you mean when your former Kage sent his little envoy to Konoha for a treaty only for it to turn out to be A? Tsunade stopped as she knew that the short fuse around it was getting shorter with each word. Tsunade pulled back and A tried to remain calm. That was a really hollow loss. He knew that it was Kumo's fault, but only a select few of Konoha shinobi knew that to a T. Darui knew it, Mabui knew it, and probably a few others. Bringing that up, are you? Well, I suppose that is true. Still, this is a problem. I say that it's too much of a coincidence because Konoha is indirectly involved, A said, and Tsunade narrowed her eyes. A turned his gaze to Kushina and Mikoto. It had definitely surprised him when he had heard that the matriarch of the Uchiha clan and the wife of the Yondaime were both alive. He didn't know how to feel about such a thing. Both women were very strong. Kushina was Umbu level and Mikoto was also Umbu at one point before settling into the Jonin position, but only for a short time before her untimely death to Itachi Uchiha. Oh. And how exactly does this indirectly involve Konoha? Tsunade asked. A closed his eyes and tried to gather his thoughts. Kushina and Mikoto shared a glance that no one was able to see. They slowly nodded to each other before turning back to pay attention. It has to deal with a certain man that you are all familiar with. I think you know him. Danzo Shimura? A asked, and Tsunade widened her eyes in surprise. Mabui and Darui turned to see Kushina and Mikoto were stoic, but Mikoto's hands were balled into fists and they strained until her nails dug into the soft skin of her hands. What, you're not telling me that this person that you caught? A nodded and placed a picture in front of Tsunade. The picture of Kamachi in her prison clothing. Kamachi's eyes were lifeless and she looked like she hadn't been eating for a good few days. Her body was slightly bruised, showing Tsunade that Kamachi had been tortured. How? She didn't know, and she probably didn't want to know either. It makes no sense. What would Danzo want from Kyumo? Tsunade asked, and he folded his buff arms over the other. That's what I was hoping you'd be able to tell us. The entire nations know that Danzo was made into a missing nin by you. It had been said that he had retired from the duty, but he's just as strong as any S-rank nin. I had a few of my people look around, and there have been a large amount of business meetings between Danzo and one of our council. We aren't sure who, as they have erased their steps rather well, but we know that it is someone. Someone is plotting behind Kyumo's back, A said, and Tsunade finally began to calm down now, seeing that Kyumo was in the same boat as Konoha. Maybe this person that you have was sent to be the envoy between them when you caught them. No doubt that threw Danzo's plans for a loop, but as to who your, pardon my terms, traitor is, then I doubt they are going to reveal themselves so easily. If nothing else, they are bound to be more on edge, seeing as how they could be pointed out at any moment. Also, Reikage Dano, tell me, how is Kyumo's perimeter control? Tsunade asked. A knew that she had asked that only because it was necessary. It was a very personal question as it related to Kyumo's safety, but the only people in this room had to know it. Our perimeter scouts work just fine. What are you getting at? A asked dangerously. Tsunade didn't seem to respond to the danger as she propped one leg over the other and placed a finger to her chin in a thinking pose. What I'm getting at is that I think that whoever has been meeting with Danzo in your council, then that is the same person took short control of your perimeter guards and allowed Akatsuki to enter. Kyumo has always been best known for its military and in turn, its defense. It never struck you as strange that your guard could be broken so easily? Tsunade asked, and they calmed down. Now that he thought about it, that was very strange. Mabui, show me the reports of all the teams that had gate patrol on the day of Yujito's capture, said, and Mabui bowed before she quickly stepped out of the room. Aside and looked out his window. Somewhere in his village was a traitor. One that would be dealt with. Reikage-sama, I know it might not be much, but I am inclined to agree with Hokage-sama. It was strange, in that act, but the thing was that all the teams had been accounted for during the assault. I think we're looking at something different, Darui said, and he narrowed his eyes. A coup, Mikoto said, coming into the conversation. Tsunade narrowed her eyes dangerously while Darui tried to remain impassive, but even he was surprised that Mikoto had been thinking along the same lines as him. That's the case, we're looking at Reikage-sama. If it's right, then that's no doubt, Darui answered. Mabui quickly returned and handed a file to the Reikage. He took it into his hands, opened it, and scanned its contents. A list of all the Chunin who had been assigned to the gate patrol during the time of Yujito's capture. It had also been a list of reports from those whose shifts had ended and those who had taken over. Tsunade had looked through it as well since they wanted her input. "Has the prisoner said anything to you?" Tsunade asked, already knowing the answer at one point, and it didn't surprise her when he shook his head. "One of my shinobi has failed to get anything out of her. She's most likely a drone or something of that nature. We had tried to get it out of her early morning, but she still said nothing. Rather, she seemed confused on what we were talking about. She held her tongue to everything, and even when it seemed like she would talk, something instantly made her stop," I responded. Then I suggest that you stop in your attempts. We had a case like this once. One of my shinobi had come across a dead umbu. It was around the time that I had Naruto and Jiraiya go off in a training trip. On the dead umbu's tongue was a seal. Luckily the seal had been copied down just in time before it disappeared. I had Jiraiya examine it, and it was only then did I know that he couldn't decipher it. It had struck me as strange, but Kushina, you deciphered it, didn't you? Tsunade asked, and Kushina blinked. Yes, I did, but I figured that it was something not so important, so Sochi and I did it together. I figured it would be a good Fuinjutsu lesson for him. We had found that the seal was actually a Juinjutsu. A jutsu that is used to bring control over others. It's actually similar to the curse seal of Orochimaru in a sense. When the wearer of this cursed seal speaks about anything incriminating related to Danzo or Root, their entire body will be paralyzed, taking away their ability to speak or move. It is generally applied to the tongue and takes the shape of 3 solid lines and 2 broken lines from the back of the tongue to the tip, Kushina responded. So it's insurance on the part of Danzo. The bastard, Tsunade said, and closed the file. So we won't learn anything from the woman. So what do we do with her? A asked, and Darui slowly raised his hand. Reikage-sama, I have an idea. Can you trust me on it? Darui asked. Mabui and they turned to him in confusion, while Tsunade, Kushina and Mikoto shared that same confusion. What is it, Darui? A asked. This is so dull of me, I swear, Darui mumbled before speaking up. Reikage-sama, tomorrow is the day that B-sama is to fight with Naruto-san, right? He has to impress you in the fight with his abilities, right? A nodded at this, and Darui continued. A lot of people will be watching the fight, right? A nodded again, and Darui nodded. Then I can only assume this, with Naruto and Yuri. Yuri looked up in amazement of what was in front of her. Well, not really amazement, more like uncertainty. She looked back at Naruto and saw her Uzumaki brother walk into the Kyumo library. It was one for civilians, genin and a few chunin, but it was meant for public access. Why the library, Ni-san? Yuri asked, following him inside. Naruto probably didn't hear as he talked with the library attendant and then went inside. Yuri continued to follow, and she noticed that they had quickly left the civilian section of the library and came into the genin to chunin section. We're looking a certain book. Yuri, you know my Raisin Shuriken, right? Naruto asked, and Yuri blinked. You mean that big, white, spiraling death ball of futon chakra and shape manipulation? Yeah, I know it. It's your best technique, right? Well, ninjutsu-wise, right? Yuri asked, but to her surprise Naruto shook his head. No, it's not my best technique anymore. It was at one point, but I've come up with something much better since I can't use chakra anymore. Remember, Yuri, my chakra is all but gone. So is most of Kyubi's chakra as well. We're running almost entirely on Honshu. Well, that's not the main reason that I'm here, Naruto said, and Yuri just nodded while Naruto stopped at a book. He picked it out and Yuri looked at it. Ni-san, why do you need a book on shape manipulation? You already know how to make lots of things. You can make the Rasengan just fine. It's basically shape manipulation at its finest, right? That's what Kakashi-san and Kushina-san told me, Yuri said, and Naruto nodded. Yeah. I just need a little more intake before I try to do what I'm planning. Yuri, if this works, and I'm not saying it will, but if it works then it will be the second S-rank technique that I've created, Naruto said with a grin that Yuri couldn't help but feel happy about. Yuri took a book as well and the two sat in a corner. Yuri plopped herself into Naruto's lap, getting a glare from the blonde. Yuri just smiled at him as she opened her book and began to read. How am I supposed to read like this? Naruto asked her. Yuri just grinned into her book and shrugged her shoulders. I don't know. You'll find some way, she said, getting a heavy sigh from Naruto's lips as he opened his book. The minutes flew by for them both as 2 hours had passed. Naruto tried to figure out a way to make a better Jikuyugami, or at least what he deemed as the next step. First there was the Jikuyugami and then there was its shape manipulation. After the shape manipulation there was the adding of element manipulation. Naruto doubted that elemental part was possible, but hey, Naruto was known for making the impossible possible. It was one of those things he had prided himself on. So if I combine what Ero Sennin taught me along with what I could do with the Jikuyugami, then I can get this result. I wonder if there was any way that I could expand that. Maybe I could use my Honshu chains. Wait, that's it. Kyubi, how do you make a Bijidama? You know, that large ball we made when we trained back at the house. How did we make one? Naruto asked mentally. Kyubi stirred and groaned. What are you thinking? Kyubi asked and Naruto responded. That I still might not be able to beat B with it, but it's worth a shot. No wait, that's wrong. I don't think I should use it unless necessary. It could very well kill you, me, B, and Hachibi in one shot, Naruto said, and that already got Kyubi interested. Well, whatever. We gather positive and negative chakra, then compress it into a sphere, like your Rasengan. It can be used multiple ways as an explosion, a beam, or a without being compressed. The beam is from being compressed, swallowed and then letting the pressure build before expelling it all. The wave is firing it without being compressed. Something Hachibi should be familiar with. And the last, firing without compression, is to fire the bomb as a large ball of chakra. Which is what I, reluctantly, did to your village at one point. It doesn't stop until it hits something very hard, engulfing all in an explosion. My best work, no? Kyubi asked, getting a sigh from Naruto. Well, I get the compression part as well as the use of our tails when we raise them to make one. I think I can replace the tails with my chains. Oh, you're going to be proud of what I can create, Kyubi, Naruto said, and Kyubi just closed his eyes. Like anything your puny mind can create that will impress me, Kyubi said before going silent. Naruto snorted mentally as his oh-so-good friend the fox. However, Naruto knew where the furball's heart was. Seems like I'll have something fun to do, Naruto thought to himself before he twitched. He widened his eyes as he looked at Yuri. Could it be known that Uzumaki were adventurous? Because right now, Yuri was casually reading her book while she tried to discreetly push against Naruto's lower anatomy. Naruto groaned slightly, getting a smile from Yuri before Naruto noticed the people reading book. You're insane, Yuri, Naruto said, and Yuri just smiled while looking to him. I always get what I want, Nisan, Yuri said, and Naruto glared at her. Is that right? Naruto asked. Naruto quickly surprised Yuri as he discreetly slipped his hands through her clothes and slipped them underneath her bra. Yuri widened her eyes as she felt Naruto's warm hands against her breasts. She groaned before holding up the book to cover Naruto's actions and make it seem like they were still reading. Naruto chuckled at the light action as Yuri gave a silent moan. They quickly moved against the wall where Naruto continued his ministration. Yuri sighed blissfully against his touch before she couldn't help a yelp as Naruto pinched her nipple. Oh, Naruto nii. You're so bold. Kushina-san told us what you did back in Yuzushio. Did you enjoy doing that to her while Mikoto-san was there? Yuri asked, and Naruto kissed the nape of Yuri's neck while she continued to grin against him in the public library. Yuri was by no means used to this, as it was a bold approach for her, but she was adventurous in a regard like this. Naruto probably figured that she was one of those with a hidden fetish. Well, Ka-chan wasn't as bold as you, Yuri-chan. You was really flustered, but I think you took it to a new height. Better not let them hear you, Naruto said to her. Yuri huffed as another moan came from her lips. Then you should cover my mouth, Yuri said, turning to the older Uzumaki. Naruto smirked with a nod before the two met into a kiss as their bodies started to get hot off each other. Naruto continued to play with Yuri's C-cup breasts, much to her delight. Yuri moaned into Naruto's mouth before she raised a hand to graze his cheek. Yuri noticed Naruto lightly purr from the touching of his whisker marks, which got her even more aroused. Combine that with the fact that some people were just passing the wall, where they were sitting having their fun, like it was nothing but an ordinary day, just seemed to turn her on. "Ni-san, think you could teleport us home?" "I need you," Yuri said, and Naruto's eyes gleamed again. Just like they had gleamed for Kushina's time. "I could, but I have to save that for a fight, Yuri." "You know how it is," Naruto said, giving Yuri one more kiss as a consolation prize. Yuri dropped her jaw at Naruto's refusal as the blonde got up, put the book back on the shelf and walked off with a sadistic grin on his face while Yuri's face was blank. What just happened? Yuri thought to herself as she was left wanting to go to the high that Kushina had told her and Yura about. "Mao, I'll get you one day, Ni-san," Yuri said as she stood up before she immediately fell to the floor. Yeah, she would get Naruto, as soon as she could get the feeling back in her legs. With Naruto, evil. That was without a doubt, better than a fact, more honest than the truth, unspeakably evil of you, Kit. Yeah, I've been left limp-dicked before also. Damn you, Nibby. But even I know that she wanted you to screw her into the hotel bed. I never thought you were the revenge type, Kyubi said, and Naruto laughed. Oh, I'm not the revenge type. But if someone's going to do something to me, then you'd better fucking believe that I'll get them back, Kyubi. No one messes with Naruto Uzumaki and gets away with it. When I was a kid, you knew that to be true, didn't you? Naruto asked, and Kyubi rolled his eyes. Did I know? Did I know? They never shut up about you. Well, you did add food coloring to all the Akimichi places of good food, making it look purple and poison-ish. It took a good month for the food to clear. No one ate anything. In fact, the Akimichi had to resort to protein bars. I still laugh at that. And no one figured that it was you. You really are a fox, Kit, Kyubi said, and Naruto gave a mock bow. I'm so glad that you think so, Kyubi-sama, Naruto answered before the two went silent. Naruto continued in his walk before he felt his shoulder grabbed. He turned around and he noticed Team Samui. You guys want a rematch? Naruto asked, getting a nod from Karui and two no's from Omoi and Samui. That's not why we're here. Is it true that you will be fighting B-sensei tomorrow? Omoi asked, and Naruto nodded. I see the news has begun to spread, but I suppose that's to be expected at least. Yeah, it's for some treaty between us, Naruto responded, getting a snort from Karui. Please, B-sensei will mop the floor with you. You might be a Jinchuriki, but he's been one longer than you've been alive, Karui said with a grin across her face. I don't doubt that, Naruto said, surprising everyone. Karui blinked while Omoi gave a slow nod. Samui didn't say anything as she could tell that Naruto had more to say. However, that doesn't mean I won't make his rapping ass sweat just a little bit, Naruto said to them. Karui, Omoi, and even Samui were surprised by the answer before the three of them felt their bodies warm slightly before stopping. What's wrong with you guys? Naruto asked before Samui waved him off. It's nothing, Naruto-san. Sorry to bother you. We'll be watching the fight. It's cool that you think that way. We'll see you around, Samui said before walking off. Naruto could see Samui had her hand on her shoulder. I can't wait to see your ass get kicked, Karui said, walking off, and Omoi just bowed before he quickly left. Naruto blinked at the three of them before shrugging and walking off. However, he didn't get far as he heard a call. Ni-sama. Naruto turned and he noticed Yugao and Yura walking up to him. Ni-sama, what are you doing out here? Shouldn't you be resting for your match? Yura asked. Naruto just shrugged his shoulders. It's fine, Yura-chan. I can't stay in one place anyway. Besides, I always like to move, Naruto told her, getting a sigh from Yura. Well, I just hope you don't hurt yourself, she said, and Naruto just nodded with his usual energetic smile. So what are you two doing out here? Yuri told me that you were searching for short swords for yourself. Yura nodded and turned to Yugao. Yugao-san was good enough to accompany me to find some swords since we were up. It's just going to be a hobby of mine, Yura spoke, getting a nod from Yugao. Naruto looked between them both before shrugging. Mind if I go with you? He asked. Yura blinked and Yugao smiled. Sure. We could always use another opinion, Yugao said as the three walked off. Kyomogakure Prison. Reikage-sama, this is insane. Why are you asking me to release the prisoner? Sure asked as he narrowed his eyes. Tsunade, Kushina and Darui were by his side, and the muscle-bound Kage walked through the halls with Sure right behind him. It's not for long, Sure. We need to let her go so that the Hokage can run a small diagnostic. Besides, I told you about the assumptions. I can't go back on them now, and I won't, they said while Sure tried to say something, but he couldn't do so. Kushina could see that the prison was mostly like any other prison. Cells separated the prisoners, chakra suppressors were located across the rooms. The stairs lead to the lower cells where those on execution, or death row, were placed. Each step they made was an echo that signified their presence in their prison. The built walls were just enough to not corner someone or make them claustrophobic. However, when you're a prisoner, then officials rarely care about how you're treated. The moans and groans of criminals wanting to be let out filled the room. It made Kushina sort of weird in her stomach, but she pushed the idea of these things down. She had stomached worse than this. It was just more proof that she was alive. The group stopped in front of a cell and Kushina looked through the bars to see the exact picture-perfect person that she had seen in the photo just a few minutes ago. Is that her? Kushina asked, just more of a confirmation even if she was sure that she didn't need one. Yeah, this is the bitch. We have her right there. Even though she says nothing. She only eats her food and sleeps nearly all day, Sure said, and a Kyumo Jounin opened the cell door. Oi, present yourself. Reikage-sama is here to talk to you, the Jounin said. For a few minutes there was no movement, but slowly Kamachi began to move and she quickly stood to her feet. Her eyes were as blank as normal as they came through the door. Tsunade, get it done, A said, and Tsunade walked through with a quick nod. So Danzo sent you do his work, did he? Tsunade asked. Kamachi stayed silent. She just blinked like she didn't know who Tsunade was talking about. Can she talk? Kushina asked, and Sure shrugged his shoulders. I don't know if she can or not, but from some things I would guess that she could. She just hasn't chosen to say anything, Sure said with a scowl. Lay down, Tsunade ordered, and Kamachi followed the words of her former Kage and laid down on the bed. Close your eyes, Tsunade said, and Kamachi closed them. Tsunade's hand glowed green and she placed it on Kamachi's temple. Her hand moved left and right while her eyes narrowed. Everyone stayed silent while watching Tsunade work. After 10 minutes or so, Tsunade's hand raised up and she backed away from Kamachi. So what happened? Darui asked politely, and Tsunade looked back at Kamachi, who looked back at the wall. From what I can tell you, then her mind has been closed. The reason you won't get anything out of her is because there isn't anything to get. She'd been wiped clean of her memory. How, I don't know, Tsunade said, getting wide eyes from everyone. How is that possible? Sure asked, and Tsunade explained. She took one of her fingers and pointed it to a specific part of her head. Because of this, the hippocampus. All medical know what it is. It's the portion of the brain that controls memory. It's a part of the limbic system and can be found in the medial temporal lobe, Tsunade explained. Everyone listened intently while she gave her theory. Believe it or not, this small, curved, tube-shaped part of the brain is responsible for not only forming new memories about all your experiences and then processing the new and temporary memories into long-term storage, it is also responsible for functions like your emotions, your behavior, and your sense of smell. Whenever you have to remember places, events, people, or any important facts, it is because of the hippocampus being able to retrieve this information that this is even possible. If this part is damaged or removed, your memory will suffer in the process, Tsunade said, finishing. Wait a minute, so that part of her brain was removed? If it was, then that would mean that major surgery would be needed and we would have seen it happen. That's not possible, Sure said, and Tsunade sighed. Don't doubt my expertise. I will be rational with you. It's like this, like any other organ or structure in our bodies, when they are damaged or injured, it causes an impairment. It is no different when the hippocampus is damaged or injured. If the injury is severe enough, a person could have problems forming new memories and problems with memories before the damage. However, older memories, like knowing how to solve puzzles or play an instrument, could be intact, Tsunade explained. But if that's true, then she should remember Danzo, right? She should remember Root or whatever they go by now. She's been in Root all her life. She should know these things and be able to tell us, Darui said, getting a nod from Tsunade. Older memories can be accessed because we, doctors, believe memories that have accumulated over time are transferred and stored in different parts of the brain and doesn't necessarily rely on the hippocampus for retrieval. However, since it is also believed that the hippocampus helps with our navigation, any damage may disrupt your ability to know where you've been and where you're going. In other words, she's not going to remember the places she's been to, how to get to them, or even who is behind them all, Tsunade said before the Kyumo Jounin, who opened the cell door, raised his hand. Forgive me, Tsunade-sama, but if that's true, then how could such a part be damaged? If that's true and she's from Root, then no doubt she would try to defend herself, right? No one would be crazy to allow their mind to be wiped so easily, he said, getting a nod from Tsunade. You forget that she's Root also. They were trained from youth to know when they weren't needed by Danzo anymore, and they would, without complaint, accept the consequences. The way that this part of the brain can be damaged is by various things. I will tell you 3. 1. The most common one, a heavy hit to the from the ground or a punch like from either Hokage or myself. 2. Is by, let's say, the Hyuga's method of attack, hitting that precise point of the head and sending a jolt of chakra to puncture it. The last one is that sending a precise jolt of Raitan chakra from the hand onto the head will make it happen. There are other ways, but these are the ones that apply to this case, Tsunade finished. Would it be possible to fix? Sure asked, and Tsunade sighed. That's not an easy question. I could do it and have her regain her memories, but one mistake and she'll be lucky to even remember her name. Also, I would suggest not doing any more mind tricks. If you do, then she'll most likely overload the memories of her head and kill herself, Tsunade said, sounding grim while the others flinched. Does this affect the plan at all, Darui? A asked. What plan? Sure asked. Not at all, Hokage-sama. In fact, this most likely increases our chances of a good deal happening. Not that I like to think that her dilemma is a good thing, but you know what I mean, Darui said, getting nods. Very well then. Sure, have 2 kunoichi take her from this cell and clean her up. She must keep her prison clothes on, but do as I told you. And make sure that it is 2 kunoichi, understood? A asked, and everyone knew what he was implying. Kushina narrowed her eyes, and so did Tsunade. It would be impossible to miss. "Hi Reikage-sama," Sure said and spun on his heel. "Excuse me Reikage-sama. I would like it if I could be one of those kunoichi," Kushina said, getting looks of confusion for everyone. "Why?" A asked. Kushina turned to Kamachi and inwardly smiled. "A cousin? One of Naruto's cousins? Another Uzumaki sister?" Kushina could feel it for some reason. She could even feel it from Sure, but he was a problem on his own. "I don't know. I just think that I should. I promise not to cause trouble Databane," Kushina said to him. Reikage narrowed his eyes before he turned to Darui, who nodded and accepted it. Kushina took Kamachi and carried her away from the cell. "In the end, even if she does get her memory back, she won't talk, but it's better than anything," I said, getting a nod from Tsunade. "I'd turn her over to either Inoichi or Ibiki, but with her mind as it is, then I doubt we'd get anything." "If only we had some time," Tsunade said, and they glanced towards her before mumbling something incoherent. With Kushina and Kamachi, Kamachi, and a female kunoichi were in the bath, and Kushina was busy washing Kamachi's back. She undid Kamachi's hair, allowing it to fall to her back while the redhead scrubbed it clean. Kamachi's eyes showed a limited light in them, but she never said anything. "Don't worry about losing your memory or not," Kushina said suddenly. Kamachi showed no visible signs of listening, but Kushina continued. "I saw your chest. You have the same swirl symbol that I do. You might not be full-blooded, or even if you are, then it doesn't matter." "Kamachi, you're an Uzumaki," Kushina said, getting Kamachi to stir. The Kyumo kunoichi who had been with them just blinked, not really getting the conversation. Kushina scrubbed the dirt off Kamachi's face and smiled in the blonde's line of sight. Kamachi blinked and tried to open her mouth, but soon closed it. "Don't worry, take it one step at a time," Kushina said gleefully. It was best to try and get Kamachi's mind off of it. "He said, he, same," Kamachi tried to get out. Kushina blinked before she sat in front of Kamachi. "What was that?" Kushina asked, and Kamachi closed her eyes. She moved her hands in sign language. "Someone told me that back in the prison," Kamachi said with her hands, and Kushina nodded. "I see, and who did that?" Kushina asked while Kamachi shook her head that she didn't know. "I only know that he said that he would save me," Kamachi said, and Kushina's smile beamed. Even though most of her memory was gone, Kamachi remembered Naruto for the most part. That's interesting. Don't worry, you'll see him again. The person that said he would save you. He tries to save everyone even though he doesn't need to, but that's why I love him. You'll see more of him. In fact, you'll see him tomorrow," Kushina said, and Kamachi blinked. "Alright, that's enough." Out of the bath, the Kyumo kunoichi shouted. Kushina nodded and quickly pulled Kamachi up as they walked off. Kushina helped Kamachi fit her clothes before the chakra restriction seal was placed back on. However, now Kamachi was sleeping in a better bed. Once she had turned to the wall, Kushina patted Kamachi's shoulder. "I'll bet you have a very funny date version." "I'll see you tomorrow," Kushina said before Kamachi grabbed her hand. She looked back, and Kamachi discreetly gave Kushina the same note that Naruto had given her. Kushina took the note and walked out while the Kyumo kunoichi stood guard. Once she was clear, Kushina took out the note and opened it to read it. "Don't worry, Kamachi-chan. I swear to save you." "It's what family is for, right? How could I not save such a cute family member anyway? Sleep, Kamachi-chan, and I promise then when you're in danger the last thing your enemies will see is the death god." Kushina smirked and crushed the note. "Sochi" was the only thing that she said before she walked off through the town. With Naruto groaned as he came through the door with a ton of shopping bags. He swore to never go looking around with those two ever again. His arms were killing him like he wouldn't even believe. They had looked at weapons, knives, and daggers left and right for the longest time, and Naruto was dead tired. He just laid down on his bed trying to sleep before he heard the door open. The blonde looked up and he noticed his mother walking through. "Well, you've been gone for a good portion of the day, Ka-chan. Where were you?" Naruto asked, and Kushina just smiled while sitting on the bed. "I went with Mikoto to the Raikage mansion. We all talked for a bit and then we went to the Kumogakure prison," Kushina said, and just like that Naruto straightened up and glared at his mother seriously. Tsunade said that her memory has indeed been tampered with and anything drastic could very well kill her, so we're keeping it on the hush-hush. Also, it would seem that Danzo had tried to get rid of her for her failed mission, which seems to have something to do with Kumo's council. "They have a traitor here, but I can't tell you more than that," Kushina said, getting a sigh from Naruto. "So what are they going to do with Kamachi-chan?" Naruto asked, and Kushina smirked. "Kamachi-chan, eh?" Kushina thought to herself before addressing her son's question. "We don't know, but it's most likely that Tsunade will do something for Konoha to acquire her. After maybe a few sessions with Inoichi, then she'll be under our care," Kushina said, and Naruto blinked. "Why us?" Naruto asked, and Kushina smiled. "I requested it," she said, letting that hang in the air. "So what have you been doing?" Kushina asked, trying her best to change the subject. Naruto leaned back and sighed while he looked at the ceiling, then placed his hands around his neck. "So much shopping. Yura and Yugao are crazy. They practically took me all around Kumo, but it was fun, I guess. I'm also trying something with the Jikuyugami. I'm taking it to the next step," Naruto said, and Kushina blinked. "Next step? What other step is there?" Kushina asked, and Naruto smiled. "I haven't made it, but I also already have the name. The Shunkanyugami no Jutsu, instant distortion technique. That's its complete form." "I know it is, but I could be wrong." "Ka-chan, this is going to be fun," Naruto said, and Kushina smirked. "Think you can get it done before the fight?" she asked, and Naruto shook his head. "I can't work miracles, Ka-chan," Naruto said, getting a blank look from his mother. "Says the person who can revive the dead Databane," she said before laying on the bed. Naruto laid next to her and both closed their eyes, if only for a few minutes, since it was midday. "Back in Konoha, really? How are you making so much money for the Heineken Group?" "They already have enough money as it is, but this is just incredible," Fuka said, and Guren smiled with a nod of her head. "I had a job working with the jewelers in the village. It seems that they want to study the crystals that I can make, and I get a share of their findings. It's not really Heineken that I'm supporting. I'm mainly trying to support Uzumaki. It is home after all," Guren responded. Fuka nodded her head before sighing. Everyone, but them and Yukimaru, was gone, and they were bored. Both of them weren't really shinobi for Konoha, so they couldn't take missions like everyone else could. However, that didn't mean that the two didn't train. Fuka had come up with several A-rank techniques on her own, and so had Guren. They took every opportunity to go to a training ground and spar with some of the Chunin and Jounin that happened to be hanging around. That's why they were good friends with Anko, Kurenai, Hana, and Tsum. Hell, even Hinako had joined them on more than one occasion. "That's right, it's home. The unique weather there is great for my hair. I also just feel at peace there. You know, I find myself wondering if that place was something that my parents enjoyed a lot," Fuka said, leaning against the couch. Guren nodded as the two Uzumaki wondered about their parents, or if they lived on Uzumaki before its destruction. Both sighed solemnly before they felt a knock on the door. The door opened as the two ladies saw Yukimaru come through with a smile across his face. "So Yukimaru, how was the academy?" Guren asked, and Yukimaru nodded. "It was fun, Guren-chan. I had a private tutor that I could learn from and he said that I was really good at seal making. He told me that I should make it a profession. It's because of all that training you and Fukune taught me. On the way back I met this girl from the Hyuga clan. Hanabi-chan, I think it was, Yukimaru said and Guren nodded. I'll tell you, I didn't know what I was teaching you when I was looking at those seals, Fuka said shrugging while Yukimaru tilted his head to the side. Really? Because when I explained it to the instructor he actually went inside and brought out 3 others as I told them the mistakes that you and Guren-san had pointed out in some of the seals. I also explained the seal array and they said that it was like watching a sealing genius teach them. Are you sure you didn't know? Yukimaru asked and the two looked at each other weirdly. Yeah, we're sure. I never really was into seals, but when I had pointed one out to you then I just felt like I knew everything. I could explain it in detail and in an hour or so I could draw it perfectly. Weird, right? Fuka asked, getting a nod from Guren. However, we're happy that your day went well, Yukimaru, but remember what I told you, Yukimaru, Guren said, and Yukimaru nodded. Try not to showcase too much. But why, Guren-san? I thought I should do my very best, Yukimaru said, and Guren smiled while offering Yukimaru a hug. Yes, I did indeed tell you to do that, but I want us to be careful, Guren said, and Fuka narrowed her eyes. Why? Fuka asked. 'Cause all this money that I'm saving. I have a feeling that we're going to need it one day, Guren said ominously, making Yukimaru and Fuka tense. With Naruto, nighttime, alright Ka-chan, we'll see you later, Naruto said, and Kushina waved goodbye to Naruto and Yura. The blonde had decided that he hardly got to spend any private time with Yura in a while and this was just as good as any other day, so he decided to take her out on a date for once. Bye Sochi. Have a good time. Don't worry about coming home late. Stay out all night if you wish. Kushina said, getting a blush for Yura and Naruto before the latter guided the former out the door. Naruto and Yura hit the streets and saw the lights over the stores, shops and entertainment places. Things seemed to really be bustling for everyone, so Naruto turned to his date. So where would the lovely Ms. Uzumaki like to go? Naruto asked, and Yura snickered before she saw a quaint restaurant. Let's go in there, Nisama, Yura said, and Naruto nodded. He guided her through the door and the two quickly sat down since they got a table early. Naruto seated Yura and the two ordered their meals before staring out the window. Did I get you a good seat? Naruto asked, and Yura nodded with a smile on her lovely face. Yura wasn't one for fancy clothes, so she just opted to wear something moderate and insisting that Naruto do the same. It's lovely, Nisama. I would never imagine that I would be here. Being with you and having a new life for Yuri. Sometimes when I sleep, I just wonder what would have happened if, Yura trailed off before Naruto soothed her worries. Hey, none of that now, Yura-chan. I saved you and Yuri from that stuff. Besides, those guys are sure to be resting with Shin right now. I'll always be there to save you. Just like I was there to save Yuri-chan, Naruto said, getting Yura to nod her head. She sighed and looked out the window again. It's one of the reasons why I just love you that way. Does that make me weird? Yura asked, and her only response was a quick kiss to the lips before Naruto pulled back. Does it matter to you? Naruto asked, and Yura shook her head, content with the action. Their food arrived and the two just enjoyed the other's company. So Yura-chan, I might have asked this before or not, but can you tell me about your former life? Naruto asked, and Yura prodded at her food with her chopsticks before placing them on her plate. Nisama, my life isn't really that interesting. I don't think. Yura stopped as Naruto placed a hand over hers and asked for her to go on. It won't change how I feel about you, Yura-chan. Please? Naruto asked, and Yura sighed with a nod of her head. Alright. Yuri-chan and I are originally from Kuni. I barely knew our parents, but Yuri didn't. She was just a baby at the time and I was too. I only know of our parents from stories told by friends. Our parents lived a very sheltered life is what I had been told. My father was a shinobi and my mother was a hostess. I was born a little later when they met. Tusama had a proficient career in his field before there was a mysterious fire. I remember the flames and the house crumbling down. I remember my father screaming, "Take her and Yuri away." Yura paused while Naruto frowned. He allowed her to continue and Yura did so. We were rescued by one of my father's best friends, but they couldn't save my parents and both died in the house fire. They scanned the wreckage and the only thing to be found was a necklace for me and a smaller necklace for Yuri. A sun-shaped one and a moon-shaped one. I was the sun and Yuri was the moon. Growing up, we had a very troubled life. I had resorted to some of the lesser likings of life. I stole food for Yuri and I was quite the fighter with other kids. You could say that Kushina-san's personality was mine back when I was younger. Yura gave a dry laugh and Naruto nodded. One day I had seen a shinobi training and was interested. I had gone to the library to look up books and the such. No one would train me, an orphan from a no-name family, so I resolved to train myself. I discovered chakra on my own and from the book. I learned to properly throw kunai and shuriken on my own. I worked hard and learned jutsu while trying to work jobs so Yuri wouldn't have to. That's why when we met I told you that I had been a mercenary for a short while. The work seemed simple and the pay was nice. However, I underestimated the job one day and I had to retreat. I didn't get paid so I quit. I walked back to my house only for those two men, that I had been ordered to kill, to show up and they ransacked our house and we were caught by those two A-ranked missing nin. Our house was burned to the ground, a house that I had paid so much money for, and that's basically when we met you. Ni-sama, you might not know it, but my hands are covered in the blood of many people. I go to sleep thinking about it a lot. Now Yuri wants to be a shinobi. I had tried to talk her out of it, but as expected, she's an Uzumaki to a T just like me. Stubborn and wanting to be self-reliant. You're the best thing that's happened to us, Ni-sama, Yura said crying, but still giving a good smile. Naruto suddenly got up and walked next to Yura. He sat down and quickly pulled Yura back into a kiss. Yura widened her eyes while Naruto caressed her shoulders. Yura sighed blissfully as their tongues danced together. Yura touched Naruto's long arms as she felt them snake around her waist. Naruto picked Yura up slightly and allowed her to straddle him as the two Uzumaki continued to make out in the restaurant. It was a private room so they were fine. The only thing they had to worry about was possibly getting caught by the waiter. Both broke their kiss and Yura panted. Ni-sama, she mumbled huskily while Naruto slowly panted as well from the lack of air. Yura, I swear on my Uzumaki name. I promise that I will protect everything. You won't have to worry about that ever again. You are mine, Yuri is mine, Ka-chan is mine. I will protect it all. So Yura-chan, don't be self-reliant. Rely on me. I know that life of hardship. It hurts, but look where we are. I have you, Yuri and Ka-chan, Naruto said before he attacked Yura's neck. Yura moaned against Naruto's touch as her hands trailed the outer parts of his form. Ni-sama, I'm not prepared for that yet, Yura said and Naruto nodded. I know. There is no rush, but for tonight I want you to only think about me, Naruto said as he locked the door. Yura blushed before Naruto placed on hand on her breast and massaged it. Yura sighed blissfully to Naruto's touch of her body as he unbuttoned the top of her shirt. Oh Ni-sama, Yura said as Naruto took off her shirt and laid it on the floor. He massaged her breasts again over the bra before he quickly took that off as well. Naruto used his other hand to massage Yura's legs as her face showed her arousal. Yura moaned softly to Naruto's ministrations as Naruto took in Yura's breast and began to swirl his tongue against it. The soft texture of her areoles made him hot under the collar, but just once he wanted to show his own affection. Naruto sucked the tip of it while Yura covered her mouth with her hand. "Oh Ni-sama, that feels so good." "Oh God," Yura said, and Naruto smiled as he blew the cold air to her exposed tit, getting a rise from Yura as she arched back. Her breathing hitched before Naruto leaned over her and caught her mouth back into a heated kiss. His fingers pinched her nipples, getting Yura to arch back again. "You're not alone anymore, Yura. I'm here. I'm doing this to you. I love you," Naruto said as he took his free hand and slid it into Yura's pants. Yura squeaked her voice out as Naruto touched her lower body. The arousal radiating from it was enough to surprise Naruto, and while he knew that Yura didn't want to go that far just yet, he was still happy to do this for her. He would have his revenge at some later time, but not right now. Not when she had honored his request of knowing her past. Naruto pushed a finger into her and Yuri groaned to his touch as his vigorously fingered her slit. Yura's moans became more apparent as she did so while still keeping her kiss to Naruto's lips. Her hips bucked against Naruto's fingers and the soft, moist feeling wasn't lost on the blonde Heineken member. "Oh God. Oh God. Oh God. Ni-sama, I think I might," Yura panted, and Naruto smiled as he kissed her neck. He nodded and moved his finger faster while Yura groaned. "Oh fuck." Yura shouted, and Naruto couldn't silence her in time as her high came and she soaked Naruto's hand. The blonde smiled at his accomplishment and pulled back. He licked his fingers as Yura panted. "Excuse me. Mr. and Mrs. Uzumaki. Are you both alright in there? Please open the door," someone shouted, and Yura widened her eyes before she quickly got dressed. Naruto grabbed her, placed the money for the food on the table, and both opened the door. "Sorry about that." Yura-chan just bumped her leg to something and shouted. "Sorry for the trouble," Naruto said, and the waiter looked to see that Yura could barely stand on her feet. He just nodded and allowed the two to leave before walking inside. *sniff*, what's that smell? The waiter wondered before shrugging and looked to see water on the couch. Clumsy customers. As Naruto and Yura walked away, the cool air allowing Yura's senses to return to normal, Naruto spoke. "I'll always be here for you, Yura-chan. Never forget it," Naruto said, and Yura nodded with a smile on her face. Next morning, crowds of people gathered around Kyomo's Chunin Stadium. The rows were filled up with people. Right next to A was Tsunade along with a few guards. Heineken was directly below the stands looking at the fields along with Yuna, Yura, and Yuri. A few rows away from them were the Kyomo Shinobi. Mainly civilians, and B supporters. "Man, who does this brat think he is? Challenging the guardian of Kyomo. These Konoha bastards need to learn their place," someone said, getting a lot of other people to agree. Team Samui had been together along with Darui, Sure, and Mabui. "Humph, that Konoha dog needs to wise up. He's ages away from being a challenge for Kurabi-sama," Sure said, getting sighs from everyone, but no one tried to refute him. "Please Ni-sama, please be alright," Yura silently prayed, and unknown to her Yuri was doing the same. "Shiken-sama, be safe," Yuna thought to herself. On the field, Naruto was sitting down cleaning his sword with a cotton swab and seemed to be mumbling to himself. "So what are my chances?" Naruto asked. "Your chances are so damn slim that if you were the Shinigami summoner and my container that you would be dead before he would go full out. Brat, stay on your toes, and I mean it. He's not going to let up, especially if it's anything like I know he is," Kyubi said, and Naruto nodded while he got a heavy sigh. "I really got no love here in this village," Naruto said to himself. That was, until music started. The Fool 9 is within my sight. Him I shall destroy with ma might. I am Kurabi-sama and I'll hit you with a Bijidama, fool ya fool, the voice echoed, and Naruto rolled his eyes. He stood to his feet and everyone noticed B flip down into the field as he folded his arms. You ready to throw down 9? Before I make you run out of town? B asked, and Naruto smiled as he sheathed his sword. Whenever you are Taiko-san, Naruto said with a grin on his face. B narrowed his eyes from behind his glasses. He then shook his hands left and right. Not like that, you fool. It's whenever you are Kurabi-sama. Call me Lord Jinchuriki, but I also prefer the name Kurabi. Bakayaro Kanayaro. B said, and Naruto grumbled. Kyubi did so along with him. Oi B, stop your mess and get serious. This is no ordinary brat. I have a feeling that he's going to give you a run for your money. He's hasn't got as much chakra as you, but the power he has is much more potent than yours or even mine, Hachibi said from inside B as he just grinned. Oi B ain't afraid. He's the one who going to be the one to be SAID, B said before he heard a shout. B stop your nonsense and get into position. A shouted. Oh Baraza, why you got to be like that? Can't you see that my rhymes is so fat? B rapped, and a growled. You don't get serious and I'll give you an iron claw. A shouted. B instantly grimaced while Naruto wondered just what the hell they were talking about. My he's eccentric, Tsunade said while A sighed and shook his head. That's putting it nicely, A said before standing. Kurabi against Naruto Uzumaki. This battle is for the Treaty of Kyumo and Konoha. It is also, for the life of this prisoner. Naruto and B turned their heads and Naruto widened his eyes. He saw Kamachi standing right in front of A and Tsunade. We will use them to determine her fate. She's been spotted in Kyumo. If B wins, then she will die. If Naruto wins, she lives, A shouted, and Naruto widened his eyes. People seemed confused as to why the life of a prisoner was important, but a councilwoman in the stands widened her eyes before she shivered. She was praying fervently that B would win this. Now more than ever she wanted a win. She knew who Kamachi was. She had seen Kamachi nearly all her life. This was bad. Very, very bad. What the hell? Naruto shouted in his mind. Kyubi glared while Kushina held her head down. B glared up as he noticed A's mysterious smile as well as Tsunade's own smile. Oh, they raised the stakes. Now we have to fight and make it out like rakes, B said, and Naruto held up his sword. You're going down, Taiko-san, Naruto said, and B grinned. Can you beat me 9? I'm the called Lord Kurabi and I am so fine, he responded while Naruto raised his sheathed sword and pointed it at B. Then don't you know? I'm Naruto Uzumaki. I'm the indestructible master of war. Now be prepared, Taiko-san, as I leave you laying on the floor, Naruto said before he blurred out of sight. That's the way it should be done. Fool, ya fool. B shouted. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to like and subscribe, and don't forget to share this video with your friends. Guys, make sure to help the author by visiting the link in the description. This is Fox Sage, and I'm signing off.